Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to day 2 of the Women's Empowerment Conference 2024. Get ready for another extraordinary day filled with inspiration, strength, and transformation. With the theme, Go For It, we invite each of you to step boldly into your purpose, push past limits, and create meaningful impact in your lives, careers, and communities. Today, you'll hear from courageous, bold, and fearless women who have defied the odds and gone for it in ways that inspire us all. Let's dive in and prepare to be empowered to take that next leap forward. Let's get started with Shelley.Tanner.
Hi, my name's Shelley.Tanner. I'm the founder and creator of Haystack. I want to tell you a little bit about my story. So I grew up in Tasmania. It's a really small island off the southeast coast of Australia in a tiny little mining town that probably no one has ever heard of. And I always felt a little bit out of place. It's a little bit bossy, maybe. I would get in trouble a lot for being bossy, for talking a lot. And I always wanted, I had dreams, of course, like anyone, to, be various things. I remember getting to a point where, I was in high school and I was really trying to think harder about where I would end up. And I saw a woman came to my school. And at this point, I was living further north in the state of Tasmania in Launceston. And a woman came to my high school and she was a mechanical engineer. And I thought, wow, like I can be an engineer. And she was standing up there really encouraging women to get into this. So I immediately went to my career officer and said, I want to be an engineer. And the career officer, who was also a woman, I think she held her hand up in front of me and then she moved it down. And then she said, oh, honey, if I were you, I'd shoot a little bit lower. And I remember walking away from that experience really confused, so inspired by this woman who stood up in front of my school and so deflated by somebody else, another adult. I was young. I was a teenager at the time. So I went on this search. I ended up going to university. I was the first person in my family or anyone in my family history to go to college. And I started studying and I became a nurse and started working as a nurse in hospitals. And I found very, very quickly that I didn't really fit into that environment. I kept walking around and trying to fix things everywhere. And again, I was getting in trouble a lot because I was coming up with ideas and things to make life better for patients. Like, I've got this great idea. But in a big hospital system, nobody really wants to hear that. Your job is to do what you're told, to show up and be part of the system. So I started going back to school. I studied some other things. And then I decided I was going to travel a bit like every good Australian does. And I remember journaling at that time. And I remember thinking to myself, I really wanted to find my place in the world. I was having a lot of great experiences and I'd had great opportunities, going to college and school and being able to work in jobs and being paid. But I just didn't fit anywhere. And I had come up with this analogy that for me, it really works. And it's about golf. Now, I've played golf a little bit, but I am not a golfer. So it is purely an analogy. But I think about someone who's a professional golfer. So they go to maybe, I'm not even talking about like somebody on the circuit playing for lots of money, but somebody who goes to a club. So they're doing something that they love every day. They go to the place and be around all the equipment. They can probably buy the equipment cheaply. They're helping other people. So they're teaching other people how to play golf. So they're teaching people every day the thing that they love. They're outside, they're walking around, they're meeting a lot of other people that like golf. So I thought, well, isn't this an amazing job? Like to be able to have all of those things, to be able to be around stuff that you love. And so I thought to myself, that's what I want. I want to find my golf. So I was still pretty young at the time, and I didn't know how to find my golf. And I wasn't really around many people who were able to give me the kind of advice that I was looking for. And I kept looking. I was on the hunt. So I decided that I loved music. And so maybe music was my golf. So I moved to New York to work in the music industry and quickly found out that nobody could hire me because my background was in healthcare and I was unable to get a visa and work there. But I was still desperate to find out what it was that was my golf. So cut forward, and a friend and I, we were both out of work, and we needed to basically produce work for ourselves. And so he and I got together and decided we were going to go and make some projects in the healthcare industry. And really and truly in the beginning, we were doing it so that we could get a job and make some money. And I discovered somewhere along the way some small nugget of information, some meaningful piece of information in that industry that told me that what we were doing, actually, we kind of stepped into something that was a great opportunity. So we started to run these projects, and then I started to bring on some employees to help us. And hiring people was hard, but I started learning about managing people and about understanding how to run teams and how to motivate people and how to understand what motivated people, how to keep people encouraged, inspired, and so on. And I actually discovered in the process of that somewhere in what I was doing was my golf. I loved helping people find their place. So throughout this company that my friend and I bought, which I was a CEO of for 20 years, throughout that whole time, my real obsession was, how do I help everybody else? How do I help the people at my company be able to find their place within what we had? So given the opportunity in 2022, a company came along and wanted to buy the company and the products that my friend and I had created. And I had promised myself somewhere in that 20 years that if I ever got the opportunity to really help people find their golf, I would take it. And not just through what I was doing. We were building great programs in medical education and helping a lot of people. But it wasn't truly my golf. My golf was inside of that. So in 2022, a big company bought my small company, and that freed me up. And I remember thinking, oh, wow, am I really going to do this? Am I really going to start another company? And I describe it to my friends as a little bit like the high diving board moment of my life. Like, at the swimming pool, there's one diving board that's maybe, I don't know, a foot or 2 feet off the pool. And there's another one really high. You have to climb up the ladder and get on there. And it's more like a cement block. It's quite scary. You look over the edge. And that moment in my life for me was that high diving board moment. I'm looking over the edge and I'm saying to myself, am I really going to do this? And so I thought about it a lot, and all honesty, I prayed about it a lot too. For months, I prayed about it. Like, is this my path? And, the feeling that I had inside of me was that I had to do it. I had to go for it. So I jumped off that high diving board right into the pool. And this was last year. So in 2023, I jumped off the diving board and started to build a company that helps people become connected to jobs and careers that are aligned with the things that they're actually good at. So we're very early stage now, but we're making a lot of progress. And I created a video game so that people can play the video game and it helps them understand their strengths and their talents. So hopefully you can see sort of the pull through of my own journey to this place of wanting to find that for myself and not really having the right people or asking the right questions. I don't know. I mean, I'm not blaming anyone. I just didn't find the answer. And so I really wanted to help other people find that answer in a natural way, as much natural as possible. So have this video game. It will be on the market in Q1 25. But the idea is you play this game and it tracks you and it helps you understand, like, oh, wow, I'm actually really good at complex problem solving. I didn't know that. Or, this kind of pattern recognition in me is really strong. So built this game, and at the moment really focused on helping neurodivergent job seekers and especially autistic job seekers. I have a family member, and as well in my team of people, of all of 9 of us, we either have someone in our family or are ourselves neurodivergent. So a really passionate team of people. And the reason that we're all passionate about that is because amongst autistic adults, there is up to an 80% unemployment rate. So unemployment or underemployment. So either, having a PhD and bagging groceries at the grocery store, which is nothing wrong with that. But if you have a PhD, you probably want to be doing something else. So this is the beginning of a new chapter for me. And I really did have that moment of, am I going to go for this? And it takes courage. And you have to, I think, look at the people around you and say, well, that person did it. And I'm inspired by, a lot of other women. I've been at Tech Week in LA and San Francisco, and I've been at a lot of female founders and funders events. And I've met so many incredible female founders. A woman yesterday giving a presentation who just got to the point they didn't actually need to raise money. And she said it wasn't even just a year ago that they were worried about paying payroll. So she said, don't think this was an easy path here. And she'd been going for 8 years. So anyway, a lot of inspiring people. So I would just encourage anyone that's listening to try to connect to a community. Try to connect to a community of women that's around you online. There's so many different groups, but keep asking the questions and keep striving for a goal, even if you don't know what it is. Don't let that stop you from trying to be the best that you can be and live the life that you want to, because I think that we all have a lot in us. And if we ask questions and keep taking steps forward, one after the other, keep momentum, keep going, you never know what's around the corner. So yeah, just a lot of encouragement to those women out there that are maybe doubting themselves, feeling imposter syndrome, feeling anxious, unsure. I will definitely tell you I'm super excited about what I'm doing. It does feel like my current experience is like being strapped in the front seat of a roller coaster. It's simultaneously exciting, exhilarating, and terrifying at the same time. But I'm glad that I did it. I wouldn't give it up for the world. So big shout out to all the other female founders out there, and anyone who's thinking of just going for it. So thank you so much for listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're in for a treat as we welcome Lynita Mitchell Blackwell.
Hi, I'm Lynita Mitchell Blackwell, speaker, attorney, CPA, intuitive business coach. And today I am really excited about the Just Go and Do It conference. So just go do it. But can I ask you something? Do sometimes you feel like when you're just out there doing it, you feel like it's being done on you? So that the agenda that you had, the project you wanted to complete, the person you wanted to meet, the client you wanted to close, the thing you wanted to enjoy, well, it didn't get done exactly how you had in mind. I can sympathize with that because everything that I ever dreamed that I wanted came to pass. I wanted to be an attorney, got that done. I wanted to be a CPA, that too. I wanted to write books. I have 6. I wanted to publish other people and bring inspiration and motivation to the world. Got that done as a publisher. Did magazines, red carpet events, including the Soul Train Music Awards. But I have a question. What happens when all of those dreams turn into nightmares and you going for it and just doing it? Well, you realize that nothing is actually progressing in your soul, that you actually have been on a hamster wheel for a really long time. And then once you realize it, you don't really know how to get off. Well, I can tell you that happened to me. I was so addicted to the applause. Oh, Lynita, I am just so happy to have you on my team. Oh, Lynita, you're just so amazing. I am so glad to have you in my life. Oh, Lynita. And sometimes I did not sleep for days at a time. Sometimes I did not exercise and move my body like I knew I needed to do in order to maintain optimal health. And sometimes I would say yes to things that I knew were not aligned with my skills, gifts, talents, or my desire to do, but I did it anyway, just for the applause, for the approval. And it was not until later when I was diagnosed from stage 4 endometriosis. And one day I was so exhausted from all of the damage that I had brought onto my body that my daughter, who was 6 years old, found me passed out in the middle of the floor, that I realized that, yes, I'm on a hamster wheel. And no, I don't know how to get off right now. But just like I went for it and I did it with everything else, I was going to have to find the tools, the people, and the resources to get off this wheel and never get back on again. And so that's what I did. I hired a performance coach, Rowena Silvera Beck, and she took me through all the lovely things that I was involved in. 7 pages, single spaced. And she said, okay, we got to get this down to 2 pages. And one of the things that no one tells you, but your friend Lynita is going to tell you, is that these things do not happen overnight. It takes time. It took me 2 years to get that list down. And so I did. I went for it. And I whittled those things down. And even though I was afraid that people would not speak to me again, I was afraid that they would think that I was flaky because I was coming off of boards and not participating at the level that I was in. I was afraid that my clients wouldn't understand and that I would lose business. Do you know that those fears were totally unfounded? That literally, it was false evidence appearing real, because not only did my clients understand, they referred more business to me. Not only did my colleagues get it, but they asked me, how did you do it? How did you scale back? Why do you look so happy? Not only did I learn that my self-esteem was not a part of my success quotient, but it was actually part of my self-love regimen. And I was going to have to treat myself that way. But once I did, that life would be pure joy. And so I learned how to live a life that was full of peace, full of joy, full of fulfillment. And it became the ultimate successful life. And so I still practice law, but not so much accounting. I still publish, but it's mostly myself. And I now empower other people to publish their own books and establish their own publishing companies. And my daughter, who was 6 and found me all stressed out, is now a senior in high school. And she has learned the value of putting herself first, her mental acuity and abilities first, so that when things seem like it's just too much going on, she says, Mom, I just don't want to. And that's totally and completely fine. So all of these things that happened from me going for it and just doing it, I learned that the key, the secret here is that it's not that we want to rush toward it. We want to make space so that it can come to us. Now, what does that look like? What does it mean? Number one, it means that we're no longer chasing anything, that we are building ourselves to be the lovers, the creators, the absolute angels on earth that we were born to be. That means that we are no longer indulging in conversations, in places, in projects, organizations that do not edify us and allow us to shine our lights bright. Now, does that mean that we don't love those people, places, and things anymore? No. It just means that we can't hang out in them the way that we used to if we're serious about moving on to the next thing. And then last, but definitely not least, it means being able to say no. That even when something that looks amazing comes our way, when it is not aligned with our skills, gifts, talents, and our vision and mission for our lives, that we can say no. Now, I will be honest with you, that last one was hard for me because I was in a place in my life where I determined what I was going to be involved in by saying, if it was positive, it's a yes. And if it's a negative, it's a no. And even if I'm overscheduled and a bit overburdened and maybe looking a little crazy, that God was going to make a way for me to get that accomplished. And He did. But just getting things accomplished and doing it with pure joy in our hearts, those are two different things. And so I got to the place where I said, I'm going to have to figure out another way to make that determination as to whether this is going to be a yes or a no. And it wasn't going to be quid pro quo. It wasn't going to be, well, that person was really nice to me and I owe them something. No, no, no. That is, once again, hustling for it, going after it, making it happen. All this very aggressive energy that was tearing me down, that I suspect possibly has torn you down a time or two as well. It meant removing things from my plate. So if something came to me and it lined up in every way, including my life mission and vision, that meant that something else needed to roll off. No matter how great it was going, something had to go off. And that's how I stay off the hamster wheel. Because the hamster wheel really is living up to someone else's expectations and desires and values. That is trying to live a life that is perfect. But we weren't here to live a perfect life. We're here to live an excellent one. And the difference is your excellence is just that, yours. You establish the standard. You establish the grace that will automatically be built in, so that no matter what happens, you know that you've done the best that you could with what you had in the present moment of now. And once you learn the lesson, whether things turned out really great or not so much, that you can let it go and keep going with your life. You want to learn, but you don't want to hold on to it so that it becomes burdensome. Because even our victories can be burdensome. Whenever we look at our lives and we can't move past a certain point and we keep saying that was the best I'm ever going to get, that's a burden, because it's not true. As long as you are alive, then there is something better that is to come. How about you say that with me? As long as there is breath in my lungs, that there is something better to come. That's exactly right. And so that was how I got off and stayed off of the hamster wheel. I committed to an excellent life and not a perfect one. That is how I made room so that I could just let things come to me. So instead of me having to go out and do it and get it done, that things came to me and we enjoy. So I would invite you to try some of these techniques and really, really give them a chance. Get up early in the morning, do your prayers and meditations, stretch your body, drink your water, and then evaluate your life to see what stays, what goes, and stick to it. And then that, truly, my friends, is the epitome of going forward and getting it done. Just do it. Go for it. You've got this.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're thrilled to have Kim Butler.
Hello, I'm Kim Butler, and I've been helping people with their personal finances for over 30 years. And I love my work. And yet, just like every human being on the planet, I have challenges. I have a wonderful business. I have a very loving husband. Yet, I was not always in that space. And frankly, even today, I'm not always appreciative of that space. So I want to talk about finances for a few minutes, and then I want to talk about mindset for a few minutes, because both things, while money doesn't matter, it affects everything that matters. And while we could look at mindset and go, yeah, that's just whatever, it matters. It makes a big, big difference. And mindset is the thing that pulls us out of whatever challenge it is that we're dealing with. So just the other day, I got notification from one of my key team members that she's going to shift gears and go do something else for a little while and still maybe help us part-time, but not really be available. And I was devastated. And yet I believe that we will persevere through this. And I believe that there is a higher power. I choose to use the word Father, Mother, God for that. And I turn to Father, Mother, God for financial things too. It's so important that we have our financial house in order. Now, you may not feel today like you have your financial house in order, or you may be one of those people that is out earning the problem, meaning you've got a really high income and yet you don't feel like you have any savings capacity because it's always going out the door for whatever it is as you live your life. And so we've developed a structure that will solve that problem. And if you're interested, you can reach out to me. I've got all the social media and a website called prosperitythinkers.com, and I welcome you. And I really encourage people to figure out how they learn best, because learning about money can be a very scary thing. I've been dealing with it since I was in 4th grade when I started milking cows. Yeah, for real, with these hands. We milked cows, my sister and I, 2 of them, and sold the milk, the extra that our family didn't use. And so I literally had money, like a lot of money during my early years, all the way through high school. And it actually enabled me to put myself through college, which was great. So with your money, make sure that you are in a position of making progress every single day. And sometimes that can be as little as putting $1 in a jar for later, or $10 or $100, whatever it is. Sometimes it can be massive, like breaking free from a financial advisor who you don't think is serving you anymore. In fact, the team member that I started my story with found out about me because of her desire to break free from a financial advisor that wasn't serving her anymore. And she figured out how she learned best, and it was reading. And so she went to Amazon and figured out somebody that has a lot of books certainly should have a lot of knowledge that they're sharing with the public, because that's what you do when you write a book. I've got a lot of books on Amazon. So she read them and then sought out particular specific advice. So that's all I'll say on the financial side. On the mindset side, this is a choice, and we make it sometimes minute by minute. And I do too. It doesn't matter what is wonderful that's going on in my life. There's always a challenge here or there in our lives. My Great Dane died about a month ago. I was heartbroken. My husband and I love this dog. She was 10 years old. We knew she was failing. Great Danes don't tend to live very long. And it was still very, very difficult. So what do you do in that situation? What do you do when you feel stuck? You can control your thoughts. And so at every turn in your life, find one positive thing. And frankly, around the dog, she died in our home. And so that seemed special rather than having to take her to a vet and have her be put down. It also created a huge mess and a ton of challenge, right? And yet you can steel yourself and mentally protect yourself. And sometimes this does mean compartmentalization. And I'm not a counselor. I don't have a lot of expertise in this space, but for me, I will set those bad thoughts aside, or maybe I'll choose to deal with them for a minute or 5 minutes. There's a great story of me in our past with a soccer team that I was on. And the coach said, when you lose the game, you get 5 minutes to be depressed. And then you're done because we've got another game tomorrow or the next day or whatever, next week. So I really encourage you to set aside, have the negative thoughts if you need them, then set them aside, and then dig the positive. Dig the silver lining out of the cloud. It's not a cliche. It's a doable act. And it starts right up here. And every single one of you has the capacity to go for it.
Our closing speaker has a message you won't want to miss. Let's welcome Dr. Jerri Johnson.
Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. I am Jerri Johnson, Dr. Jerri Johnson, or Dr. J, if you would like to call me that. I am coming to you from Dallas, Texas, currently, and my background is kind of varied. So let's just say I'm an educator of 20 plus years. I have worked in the field of education for almost, it's like almost 30 years now. I think it's 26. Oh my gosh. But I am happy to be here with you guys today. My background is really, really varied with things in the field of education, but this topic today is very dear and very near to my heart, as you will find out in just a few minutes. So go for it. I can say that when I heard the title of this podcast, I was like, yes, I'm in. Let's do it. Let's do this. Okay. So, and actually, I thought about the slogan that Nike has, just do it. And honestly, reflected on how many times I, as a young woman or as a little girl or as a growing woman or seasoned woman, as I am now, have actually received this advice. Have I ever received the advice of go for it? I really had to think about it and think about, honestly, the fact that I can probably count on one hand, how many times I've actually heard someone say, go for it, Jerri, or just do it. You know, you can do it. And it kind of made me sad. That phrase growing up seemed to be reserved for people of the male persuasion, right? They got all the rah-rah, people on the sidelines rooting for them. But as a young woman growing up, where I grew up in the Midwest, it wasn't in Texas. I'm a biracial, multiracial, whatever you want to call it, young lady. And it just wasn't something that someone said to me. And I don't remember my sister either. Like, I have a twin sister. I don't remember that being taught to my sister or said to my sister either. And in my opinion, that really needs to change. Now, today we've had feminism, we've had all of these women's movements and things like that. I will say, although I never really heard these affirmations given directly to me, I did recognize, and I do recognize, that the women that were around me, they kind of operated and moved in this way, right? It was kind of their behaviors and their attitudes were that go for it attitude. They just got out and did things. They made stuff happen. And typically that's what women do. We just make it happen. It's not all, we need cheerleaders and all of this, and we don't like to broadcast what we do and stuff like that. But, it's kind of interesting the way we move through life with the go for it behaviors and attitudes, but we don't necessarily verbalize it. For a second or a few minutes, I want you to kind of engage with me and think about what it would be like, or what it would have been like, to actually be encouraged to go for it. I'm going to give you some situations, and I want you to think about it and kind of visualize in your mind. What would it be like if someone, or in the moment, just said, go for it. Just do it. Let's do this. When you're a single mom who finds herself or may find herself in a profession that you actually love, doesn't pay much, no, real high recognition from the people who are outside of the profession, and then you're laid off 6 times. 6 times, guys, in the span of 9 years. What would it have been like if someone came alongside you and just said, I know this is happening, but I want you to go for it with these different jobs that you might have to interview for? Or you're married for the first time, you're happy, everything's going well. Something happens and you get divorced. You have a child. Your child is 8 months old. She grows up, few years, you find another husband. You're happy. Life is great. Something else happens. You divorce for the second time. This time your child is watching you. What if at that time, or during those times, someone, once again, were telling you, you know what, it's okay, let's regroup, let's do this, you might want to do that. Get out there, go for it. After 2 years of being in a new professional field where you spent 20 plus years in another one, this new professional field is awesome. You're rocking your job. You're doing things, getting recognition for it. Everything is going well. And a global pandemic hits. You then suffer the 7th layoff in your career. Once again, your child is watching you. What would it be like? Or what would it have been like if there was someone or something or some podcast or something at the time that just said, get out, get off your butt, Get out of that stink and go for it. Then at 47 years old, you suffer once again a layoff in your career, and you go through the process of interviews. Now, we all know how this interview space is, right? You go through 7 interviews where you get to the last round of the interviews. You've had many more interviews than this, but 7 of them, you get to the last round and you lose all 7 jobs in the last round. You say, forget it. I'm done. I got to go. For 10 years, I've been saying, I'm going to move out of this place. I got to go. And in March of that year, you tell everyone, F it. I'm moving. I'm moving in April. You get up, you move out of state. This is what you've been wanting to do for a decade. And you move to a year and a half of working 3 jobs because you're so-called overqualified. And you have to start over in every area of your life, financially, professionally, and personally. What does it look like if there were people rooting for you, saying, just go for it. You can create a new life. Now, the struggles that I have mentioned can happen to a man or a woman, right? But we can't deny that the look of the struggles can and most likely will be different for a man or a woman, if you're married or if you're not, if you're single without kids, if you're single with a kid, if you have never had someone in your life that rooted for you. If you did, all of these struggles can and most likely will look different for a man or a woman, even just depending on our political climate. But let me ask you this. Who is going to be more likely to have people cheerleading and rooting for them and telling them that the sky is the limit? You can have whatever you want in this life. What about pull up those bootstraps? But who's going to be saying that to who? Right? I'm just going to let that sit with you for a second. Because despite all of that, I am here to tell you, do not ever, and I know it's difficult, let these things stop you. Someone in your life or something in your life motivating you and encouraging you is not always going to be there. It's not. But in the end, nobody can treat you like you can treat you. So this is what you should aspire to. The fact that anyone that comes into your life has to be able to treat you like you treat you. And it should be so well that the bar raises so much that they may not be able to get there, but they can get really, really close, right? This is a part of the mental game that life plays with you. And life is a game of chess. It's not checkers. It requires reflection. It requires you to have a strategy. It requires execution of those strategies, right? So if I had not gone through, and yes, I was talking about myself before, if I had not gone through all of the things that I have gone through, I would not have been able to get through. And you can also grow through it if you want to, if you decide to. Many of the things that this wonderful, frustrating, amazing, and crazy life has brought to me. It has been a ride, y'all. It's been a roller coaster, and I no longer like roller coasters. Okay. I have motion sickness. I can't do it, but it has been a roller coaster of emotions. It's been a roller coaster of just frustration and everything else. But when I got to the point of saying, okay, and I talk to God all the time because that's part of my life. Lord, what's next? Rather than what I used to say, God, why me? I took my power back. That power helped me to gain the mental toughness that allowed me to develop the what I call go for it gray matter that we all need. That gray matter in our brain that we have actually helps us with the processing and interpreting of information. So anything that we go through, it's information coming into our brains, right? We got to process it. We got to strategize for it, all of that. I had to develop that go for it gray matter. So every difficult situation that I encountered had the possibility of making or breaking me, depending on how I processed it, how I interpreted it. So I'm going to give you 5 things like that I kind of worked through as to what I did or what you can do to create or cultivate this go for it gray matter that I'm talking about. You can possibly use these ideas before challenges come to build that muscles, right? Or you can use them when the challenges or obstacles or situations occur. Because I like to give people things that they can kind of take away with them. And the go for it gray matter for me has really helped me with moving through difficult times, a year and a half of 3 jobs and all this type of stuff, 9 layouts, all of this type of stuff. It has really helped me with moving through difficult situations that may occur now, may occur daily, may occur monthly, what have you, but they will come. So you want to build this muscle. And the first thing that I want to tell you is that you should strengthen yourself. What I mean by strengthen yourself is physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Do things that will strengthen your gray matter muscles. I'll give you an example. I was a CrossFitter for 10 years. I did CrossFit. I'm sure you guys have seen the elite athletes that flip tires, all this crazy stuff, right? That was the type of stuff I did for 10 years. And that is what helped me strengthen myself. Physically, mentally, it was a mind game just to get through some workouts some days. I just had to say, I'm just going to finish. I'm going to get through this. I'm not going to be the fastest. I'm not going to lift the heaviest, none of that. I'm just going to get through it. And those are some of the days that you might have. You just want to get through it. Lord, just let me get through it, right? Spiritually, it strengthened me because some days I was calling on the Lord to get through a workout, literally. And CrossFit has a slogan called "Embrace the Suck." The first time I heard it, I was like, "Oh, that's kind of crass," But I understood once I started strengthening myself through the workouts that they had. Now, some of the workouts weren't very difficult. Some of the workouts were super duper challenging, but if you embrace the suck, get comfortable with the uncomfortable, when these situations come, they are much more easier for you to navigate. I'm not saying it's easy. I just said much more easier. It's much easier for you to navigate. All right. That's number 1, strengthen yourself. Number 2, surround yourself with inspiration. I have affirmations everywhere. I have them in my purse. I have them in my car. I got them all over my apartment. Like, I love affirmations because I know that 80% of our thoughts that go through our mind are negative. They will be negative if we don't train our brains to go to the positive first, or a more positive outlook first, rather than the negative. I surround myself with inspirational people, whether it's on podcasts, whether it's in person, whether it's my friends or some of my family. People that bring me inspiration and bring me positivity, but also are going to bring me the real. Because I'm all about, listen, I ask a question before people ask me. After people ask me a question, do you really want to know the answer to this? Because you have to be ready for the answer if you ask a question, right? So surround yourself with positive people. I also take myself out in nature. I like to hike. I like to walk. I like to do activities outside. I like crystals. I like things from the earth surrounding me. I have them on now. I have necklace on. I got my bracelets on. It's certain energy that comes from things from the earth that I enjoy. So that's my inspiration. Now, I'm not talking about toxic positivity here, where people are always talking about, I'm fine, you're fine, it's going to be fine. No, because sometimes it's not. Sometimes you're not. Okay. What I'm talking about is about surrounding yourself with inspiration is this. It's okay to have these things around you, positive things around you. And when you're going through something, it's okay to feel those emotions. It's okay to process those emotions. But you know what? In the process of looking for your inspiration or having your inspiration around you, you also need to release those negative emotions. So I used to tell my daughter all the time, she just graduated from college. You know what? You can feel your ish. You can process your ish. Just don't lose your ish. I need you to release it before you lose it. Okay? So having inspiration around you, people you can talk to, things you can listen to, things you can look at, read, have on your body if you need that type of energy is something that you need to do. All right. So number one was strengthen yourself. Number two, surround yourself with information. The third thing is look at all of the possibilities for solutions, even the ones you don't want to do. We're talking about building this goal for it mindset, right? I had to work 3 jobs, 3 part-time jobs for a year and a half. Do you think I wanted to do that? No. I'm a person with 4 degrees. Over 20 years in the field, was good at and am still, to my knowledge, good at what I do, right? I did not want to have to do those things, but I had to do what I had to do then to do what I want to do now. And I am in the job that I have always wanted right now because I went through that time. And I had that mindset of, I will do what I need to do right now. And I chose some things that I liked to do while I did what I needed to do. For example, I worked at Starbucks. For a good portion of my education career, I went to Starbucks all the time. I had 5 a.m. workouts in the morning at CrossFit. I used to go to the gym every morning, pretty much, of the week, because that was my stress relief and a way to get my mind right in the mornings. And Starbucks was my best friend, just like CrossFit. Okay. So I chose something that I like to do, even though there were possibilities for solutions that I didn't necessarily want to do. I needed to do it at the time. So when you're thinking about this, building this goal for a gray matter, look at all of the possibilities that you have as solutions, even if you don't want to do it. Because within that, you may find something that you like to do that you want to try out. All right. Number 4, know that if you can do it, if they can do it, you can do it too. As we go through this social media era, I would like to say era, hopefully, I'm not going to say what I want to happen to it, but as we go through this social media era, we see a lot of people's highlight reels. We don't see the things that happen behind the scenes, the messes that they've made, the mistakes that they've made. But you will have some people come on and say, hey, my highlight reel is nothing compared to what I went through to get here, right? So if they can get through those things and get to where they got to, then know that you can do that too. I just kept telling myself, this is going to pass. I'm going to get to the place that I want to get to. I just have to do this right now. I was thinking short term, and that's what came about. It came a year and a half. For some people is a long, long time, especially when you're doing things that you don't want to do. But I had to keep reminding myself that if other people can get through these types of situations, I can too. Every hour, every day, every week, every month holds so many possibilities for what can happen. Things change like that. So you need to stay with that in your mindset that, and I say it every week on Sunday, new week of possibilities ahead. You could say new day of possibilities ahead. You could say next hour of possibilities ahead. In schools, hey, anything could happen in 30 minutes. Okay. So it was a whole lot of things that were possible in 30 minutes in this life. Think about it that way and think positively about it. So number one was strengthen yourself. Number two, surround yourself with inspiration. Number three was look at all of the possibilities, even the ones that you don't want. You might find something that you like. And number four was know that if you can do it, if they can do it, you can too. All right. Number five, and finally, stay ready to receive whatever it is that is coming to you. You have to stay ready and be ready to receive the positive things that are coming to you. And I heard someone say that luck equals opportunity plus preparation. So even if something good comes to you and you haven't prepared your mind for, you haven't prepared your body for, you need energy to do certain things. If you want to start your, like I recognize if I wanted to start my own business, I need the energy to do that, which means I need to fuel my body appropriately. I need to work out. I need to have stress relief, self-care, things like that. If I don't have the energy to do the assignment that is given to me, it doesn't matter the assignment. Doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. If I don't have the energy, the strength, the mental toughness to deal with whatever is coming to me, be ready to receive it and be able to execute on it, it's not going to matter. And then one comedian that I know, you guys have probably heard this before, says, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready, right? So that's number five, stay ready. Be ready to receive. Whether people say you're lucky or whether people say you work for it or not, that don't even matter. It doesn't matter. I don't believe in luck. I believe that when the opportunity comes and you're prepared for it, that's when great, amazing things happen. So if you do these 5 things, let me go over them again. Let's see if I can remember. Number 1, strengthen yourself. Number 2, have your inspiration around you. Surround yourself with inspiration. Number 3 is look at all of the possibilities, all of the solutions. Even if you don't want to, you might find something that you like. Number 4, know that if they can do it, you can do it too. And number 5, stay ready and be ready to receive. These are 5 things that next time a challenge comes, you should be more ready to say, or more apt to say, okay, what's next? Nah, why me? I truly believe you will meet the challenge face to face. And I truly believe that you will go for it. Thank you guys for having me today. I appreciate the time. I appreciate your engagement and the space to be able to impart some of my learnings, knowledge, wisdom upon you. Hopefully this helps one person today. And that's all I need to know in my life. I'm good with that. You guys have a great day on purpose. And hopefully I'll see you again. Bye.
As we conclude the final day of this transformative experience, let's take a moment to reflect on the inspiration and insights we've gained. This is just the beginning. Now it's up to each of us to carry the spirit of go for it into our lives and make a difference. Thank you for being part of this journey. Until next time, go out and make it happen. We're so glad you joined us for day 2 of the Women's Empowerment Conference. We hope these sessions are helping you unlock new motivation to pursue your goals. If you're enjoying this series, please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. It really helps us reach more listeners like you. Thank you for being part of this journey, and stay tuned for more empowering episodes.